Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here for today's last presentation. I would like to, first of all, thank you all for attending. And I would like to welcome our client who is attending online, Mr. Olubunmi Jinadu and Interglobe IEG, as well as the distinguished guests that are attending online as well. The last project is about the rehabilitation of the historical stadium of Alonzo Herndon in Atlanta, US. So I'm leaving the floor to the team to introduce themselves and then take you through their research.
Yeah, thank you, Dimitri, very much. My name is Leo. This is Teng, Alessia, and online we have Abhilash. And as Dimitri just said, we're going to take you through about the renovation of the Alonzo Herndon Stadium. Thank you. So firstly, we contacted, our client contacted us and told us that what the scope of the project was going to be a feasibility report, a study on the renovation of the stadium. But subsequently after that, he had a meeting with the president of the university, who is the owner of the stadium as well. And he was told that what the president wants to actually do is tear down the stadium and turn it into condos or apartments. So the scope of the project slightly changed. And we focused a lot on what the benefits of having a stadium are to the area and why this historic stadium should be preserved. Yeah, that would have been playing in the background. Sorry. Next slide. Firstly, we'll go through the history and the location, and Leslie will take you through that.
So thank you, Leo. So the history, so we'll start with some dates. 1948, the stadium is part of the Maurice Brown College. This is the first institution by the Black community and for the Black community. After this date, in the 90s, the stadium is named in memory of a former slave that it became the first Black millionaire in Atlanta. And in 1996, more precisely, the stadium is used for the Olympic Games. And unfortunately, from 2014, the stadium is abandoned and today is part of the Clark University. However, it is empty and full of graffiti. Regarding to the location, the stadium is part of the Vine City, and there is the Mata East-West line that permits to connect to the center. And we have diverse attractions around the stadium. We have the World of Coca-Cola, the Georgia Aquarium, the Centennial Park that was used for the Olympic Games in the 90s. And also we have the Martin Luther King that represent the history of the civil rights movement. And close also to the stadium, we have the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that has been built in 2017, and it will be also used for the World Cup in 2026. Now, the demographics, some numbers. So 24, it represents the Vine City population. The largest age is between 15 to 24 years old, and the majority is the Black community. We have 50% of the family that represent the level of poverty, and there is also a mix of residential house and school campuses. And unfortunately, only 25% of the population has a bachelor's degree. Thank you. So now I'll give the floor to my dear colleague, Thank.
Thanks, Alessia. Now we focus on 5 factors why having a stadium is beneficial for this area, including economic, social, environmental, educational, and health. Let's start from economic factors. For a stadium to be a viable business, it needs to be running and busy for a long period of time during the year, not be empty most of the time. So numerous events needs to be held to attract new visitors and encourage residents to stay here instead of going to downtown area or any other places. Moreover, if there is a concerted effort by local government to promote this stadium as a main attraction for the community, it can increase new visitors from outside, increase economic growth. Do you remember last time you went to the big stadium for a big match? You came to the stadium, enjoyed the game, and then you left. It's like a day trip. But for smaller stadium, especially for this one, when they are used for the smaller sports league rather than a major sports league, it can be used for many ways. Talking about social factors, sports stadium is a place where people can come together and build a sense of community. It can become a symbol of community pride and identity. So, as we know from demographic part, such a place, such a stadium is very important for this region. So people can use this stadium as a link to connect with each other, enjoy sports, and support their smaller team. The self-esteem and collective conscience of community can be raised in this process. For the rest of factors, Abi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Teng. So there are several positive environmental factors that can come up with this stadium. The most important one is the sustainable initiatives such as water conservation like rainwater harvesting, installing solar panels, energy efficient lighting like LEDs. By implementing such practices, the stadium can minimize their environmental footprints and serve as an example for sustainable development for the surrounding community. New stadiums can promote the use of public transportation and decrease the reliance on individual cars and bikes. With efficient access to the stadium through public transit system, there may be reduced number of vehicles on road, leading to decreased air pollution. Finally, the stadium can serve as a community gathering space for raising awareness of the environmental issues. Next slide, please. Thank you, Leo. This stadium can serve as a showcase for the university athletic program, attracting talented athletes. Such talented athletes can be provided scholarships. With such modern facilities, the university will be able to form high-performing teams, which will encourage youth participation. This will lead to the visibility and the recognition of the university. Finally, this stadium can help foster a sense of pride and unity among students, faculties, and alumni. Next slide, please. And finally, the health factors. The stadium provides opportunities for physical activities and sports events. This can encourage individuals to engage in active pursuits like jogging and walking, which has numerous health benefits. Regular exercises and physical activities have been linked to improved mental health and well-being. The presence of the new stadium can provide space for recreational activities, fostering social interactions and reducing stress level among the public. And I pass on the floor to Leo. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhilash. Right, so now that we all know about the factors that will help an area when there is a new stadium in the neighborhood, now we're going to go on to what we think would be good for the university, the college to implement moving forward. So first things first is, we all know that the 2026 World Cup is going to the US, right? Yeah, nodding heads, good, thought so. But maybe you don't know is that one of the stadiums being used was the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is literally a 10-minute walk from the Alonso Herndon Stadium, like you saw in Alessia's slide earlier in the location. This is a great opportunity for the college or the university to gather sponsors, because there's going to be this increased footfall, increased eyeballs around the area. So great chance to attract more sponsors to get these renovation funding. Moreover, it's an opportunity to offer the grounds as a training grounds for the players and the national teams. If they come in there, then there's more eyeballs in the stadium. It's being used more often, and then you get more attraction to the university in the area. It's promoted even more. And then because of that, you get the sponsors increasing more, and it's a great sales opportunity for that. Lastly, because of the World Cup, you have the viewing parties. That can be an option for the college to promote even more the university and get even more sponsors moving forward. We all know, we've all seen the viewing parties, how they explode on social media. You see a goal go in and it's all over social media. It's a great chance to go viral. This is great and attractive to promote, again, sponsors and the university and the area. Next recommendation. Yeah, if it goes. Thank you. Right, so then another recommendation is that we would suggest maximizing the usage of the stadium by making it four-sided, and this increases the seated area as well as the covered area below the stands. This increases the chance to lease any area within the grounds underneath the stadium for potential businesses or organizations that want to have this prime real estate. And as we saw from the location, it's four-sided, so all four of the sides are facing the street. So this is a great opportunity for annual income for the college. And then, as we heard from the economic factors, for a stadium to be a viable economic entity, it needs to be running as much as possible throughout the year. So as what we suggest is that as you offer as many sports as possible. Excuse my PowerPoint AI graphics design skills, but it's not the best. It's what I could get out of it. It's a sport that I've never seen before. It looks like fencing, but the idea was any sort of sport that you can think of that's four-sided, whether it be lacrosse, rugby, ultimate frisbee, hockey, just get it used all throughout the year to increase its usage. Also, moving forwards, any sort of social event, cultural event, such as comedy shows or concerts going in throughout the year that are too small to fit into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium down the road, which would be things like the Beyonce or Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran, which they're currently hosting just this year alone. Smaller things go into into our stadium, the Alonso Rendon Stadium. Another recommendation, another option is to make it an exemplary green stadium. This would make it an attractive place to visit. And would be a great example of sustainability for the college. This image is actually the Kansas State University Memorial Stadium, and they have done exactly that. They are an example of sustainability, improving the name of the college as one to look for in terms of sustainability. Moreover, because of this is a great image for sponsors, something that sponsors love to be a part of, something around sustainability and improve their image. It's very attractive and adds to the sales deck, if you will. And lastly, and very importantly for the college, I imagine, would be it reduces costs a lot. Maintenance costs throughout the year would be decreased compared to having it as a regular seated area. Right, moving on. We know that right now the MLS is booming because of Messi, and the numbers are going crazy. Atlanta United FC are in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium down the road, and every MLS team has a second team, right? And their second team they use as a chance to implement the reserve team, but also bring up the next gen of players, and they're all part of the next MLS Next Pro League. And Atlanta United FC's second team is called Atlanta 2, and they're currently a fair amount drive outside of Atlanta, about half an hour, 45-minute drive away from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So an option which we believe in would be ideal, would be to get Atlanta United 2 into the Alonso Rendon Stadium. And that could be an option if they're renting annually, so annual income there, but plays a lot into the social factors at play in terms of getting people around the area, community, sense of pride, and someone to support. Plays a lot greatly into the social factors. Right. Is what happened earlier in the year, actually maybe late last year, is their local Walmart burnt down, and there were talks about it not being rebuilt for whatever reasons that Walmart had. And this was a big effect to the community there, because they now have to drive a long way to get their fresh fruits and vegetables. That adds costs to their already, if you saw the demographics, they're below poverty line. It's a big deal for them. And they even held a candlelight vigil to show how much it means to them, this new Walmart. Currently, the last I saw, they're still not talking about rebuilding it. And it's a problem for what I just mentioned, plus any travel costs, and food and drugs is an issue about where they're going to get them. Not to mention the lost jobs that the Walmart provides. So an option could be to improve, again, the image of the university is to hold these food markets whenever there's not a game in play inside the stadium. And that would obviously go a long way to the community and also building a sense of pride towards the community. All right, last thing, and definitely not least, is getting the stadium registered on the National Register of Historic Places. Now, clearly, we've looked at the criteria and it can get registered because it does check a lot of the boxes in terms of its age, its historical significance and architectural significance. So it is possible. The benefits are, it has tax benefits, it can qualify for grants in the rebuilding costs, and it'll also attract visitors and tourists that want to come in. So those are all great economic benefits for getting it registered on the National Register. In terms of social benefits, it would enhance the public image, it gives them the sense of pride, and it's something that everyone that's around will sort of feel this pride to. This is our stadium, it's a historic place. All in all, it's worth preserving this great stadium for emotional, historical, and cultural reasons, which in turn benefit the whole community at large. And in the words of the Deputy UN Secretary General, Louise Pechette, at the UN General Assembly back in 2000, I don't have it memorized, thank you. The power of sports is far more than symbolic. You are the engines of economic growth. You are a force for gender equality. You can bring youth and others in from the margins, strengthening the social fabric. You can promote communities and help heal the divisions between peoples, communities, and entire nations. You can set an example for fair play. Renovating the Alonzo Herndon Stadium, therefore, is beneficial for the quality of life of the community and its soul, something the community can be proud of, and there is tremendous value in that. Thank you very much for listening. Open for questions.
Shall we start with you, Bumi? Would you have any questions for the team, please?
First and foremost, I just want to thank the team. I know it's been 9 months that we've been working on this, and I want to commend your efforts collectively in putting this together.
Thank you.
The first question I have, and this could be for any of you or for the group, is you mentioned the MLS and you mentioned Messi. Okay, so just to highlight Messi's background of where star players in the world come from. They don't normally come from, well-to-do families. So they technically, a lot of talent comes from the streets.
True.
Then they get taken out from, communities like this, and they get propelled into, better areas. So my idea for looking at this in the first instance is, why not we go back to the basics, and resurrect and restore and keep the heartbeat of the talent in those communities and let them be the custodians of the future of the communities that to better their communities that they live in, to now project into society. So my question to you is, in putting all this together, do you feel with your recommendations that you're given, that this serves into not just a local play in Atlanta, but a regional, play, and this could be something that could be referenced and modeled, not just in Atlanta, but in other communities around the US and also probably, around with stadiums with this characteristics, in other countries?
I don't see why not? Absolutely, it could be something that it can be a leader in this sort of environment and set an example for other stadiums to follow suit. It could definitely be regional, especially if you get players in from Atlanta into that stadium and then moving into Atlanta as a main stadium. If they would spend their whole careers developing and staying in Atlanta. So those stories would probably do really well in terms of promoting the area.
I agree with Leo and Bunmi as well, because our biggest strength here is the university we have. We can do wonders with the university. We can start, as Bunmi said, Messis are not produced from well-to-do families. So we can start from the grassroots with the stadium we have, and then develop a lot of grassroots leagues, and then move on to the university leagues, then the regional leagues. And from that, we'll be able to produce a lot of players as well, as you said.
That is one of my questions. I have several other questions, but I want to leave it open to, the others and,
Before we move on to the jury, I mean, Bunmi, you are the client. You can ask more questions, but yeah, if you can.
Oh, most definitely. Then I do have more questions. So
if you can summarize the questions and address them, that would be great.
Okay, no problem. So one of my other questions is the location of the stadium is right in the center of downtown Atlanta. So what don't you think what about the noise pollution, for the residents in the area? How would one potentially, mitigate that factor, with all the positives it has? That let's look at the challenge. Let's look at that challenge, and how do we address that? Because I'm sure the community, there's going to be the community would want to challenge such a good idea, so how would you guys address that situation?
So I'll take this up.
Okay.
So building up a stadium and renovating it and running a stadium, there are a few factors we have already mentioned in our report. First factor, as you said, is the noise, increased noise level. And the second factor, which I wanted to highlight, is the higher water and energy consumption.
Mm-hmm.
These are the major important factors which we have already touched in our report. And when you compare with the positive factors in this renovating of the stadium, the negative factors won't even come close to this, because any events or any stadium, any domain, these factors play a vital role.
Yeah, I can add to it as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so to mitigate, of course, there's going to be people that are against any idea. You're not going to please everyone.
Yes.
But I think the social benefits that will come at play because of this stadium and the sense of community and a place of tourism, if you will, if it's a historic place, I think highlighting social benefits would be the way to tackle any sort of negative press around noise pollution. The research that we did on smaller stadiums and smaller leagues is actually in minor leagues, creating this sense of pride and bringing people together is a positive, as opposed to, I think this sort of negative is when it's a large stadium, 60, 70, 90,000 people. That's the sort of thing that will cause a little bit more of a negative display. But when it's a host to a minor team like Atlanta 2, you really get the community having something to get behind. And the studies also show that if there's nothing going on, or if there's so much going on around the stadium, this is the thing to do now. So if your Atlanta 2 is playing, they all sort of rally behind it and they have this sense of pride to get behind it. So there's more people getting approving than maybe the naysayers that you will find for sure. But that's the point I would hammer home.
Interesting.
I would like also add something is that the stadium is part of the consortium of the diverse university, and that is really important for the young generation to discuss about this issue on sustainability and the environment issue. So it could be a positive thing at the end.
I hope we answered.
Yes, you did. So another question for you. In terms of sports tourism, and the road to the World Cup in 2026, we already know that Atlanta has the busiest airport in the world.
Yeah.
And obviously with the World Cup coming with 48 teams, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to call North America their destination, and Atlanta be a factor. How do you see this stadium increasing that economic impact and the heads and beds for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and also creating, cotton industry jobs and so on and so forth? How does that play into some of the sustainable development goals of the United Nations, and also align with some of the legacy programs of FIFA and major sporting events?
Anyone know how to take that one? No? Abby? Is personally, it's not something that was researched, that came up a lot in the research. Of course, we were focusing on the other economic and social factors that we mentioned. Off the top of my head, I don't think I could give you a great answer to that, but it's definitely something I can look into and try and get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, it's not the question. I was just trying to get your insight to see how, because I don't have all those answers, but I do see an increase. For instance, if you look at Delta Airlines, they have a lot of direct flights coming. That's their hub. So if there is a situation whereby African teams, from Ghana, from Nigeria, and they're doing 4 matches a year, at the stadium, 2 men's, 2 women's, and the Hendon Stadium was a stadium where they did their training, automatically that's gonna, bring in, audiences, not just from outside, but the Africans in diaspora and those that support the game of football, thus increasing the playership. So that's what I was referring to as far as the sustainable development goals, and the option to have another stadium outside of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that already has a full calendar, and because it's a big stadium, you can't always fill 80,000 capacity, 60,000 capacity, but for 25,000 capacity, it's easier to fill up. But at the same time, as you're filling that up, you're also boosting the social impact for that community.
Yeah, absolutely.
To add on to Bunmi on this, see, our intention is not to bring the FIFA World Cup into the Atlanta Hendon Stadium. It is to leverage the FIFA World Cup, and to maybe we can use it as a fan park during the World Cups, which will definitely increase the economics, and we can use it as a practice grounds. And after the World Cup as well, we can do a lot of leagues there, a lot of events there, as Leo mentioned, concerts and other things. These all would add to the economics of the community.
Fantastic.
Great.
Any other question from you, Bunmi?
Not off the top of my head. I think with the questions that I have, that will suffice for now.
Great, thank you very much. And dear jury members, there is your for questions.
Congratulations, because it was a very interesting and I would say very specific case. So there are several options at the end, and what kind of scenario or what kind of option you recommend regarding risk and opportunity? Because you just mentioned the options, but it's not so clear about the scenario that you want to promote and how you advise this context.
You want to? Okay, sure. The objective was sort of to give as much of the good options to the president so that he is sort of swayed away from his first idea of demolishing and turning it into condos. Because we imagine that, okay, this is the first idea, that it's financially more beneficial and easier. The idea was to promote as many of these good ideas as possible in the hope that he likes as many of them as possible, right? So that he is incentivized by the impact that he can have with the stadium and the change he can make in the community. So in terms of opportunities, it's this: he can have this this platform to improve the society, and then also use it as a way to increase registrations into the into his college, into his university. In terms of risks, yes, it's difficult. It's not easy. It requires work. As we said in the economic factors, for a stadium to be economically viable, it needs to be running not just one game a week. It can't just be 52 games a week. It has to be put in a lot of effort. So these are risks in terms of if, well, you can imagine from there.
And to add on to what Leo said, the major objective on our report was, and also by what Bunmi has advised on, is this stadium was built by the Black people for the Black people. So our major objective is very clear. It's to save this legacy.
Okay.
We also would like to convert this stadium as a lifestyle of local people, not be just only a stadium sports use, just for not only for sports and also for the daily life for the local people. So
yes,
this is our objective.
When I say specific, because it's a social core benefits for the community, which is
absolutely. This is why governments keep funding stadiums. It's beneficial for all these reasons. They wouldn't continue to be funded if not.
Yeah, if I may also add, I know you're doing the panel now. Can I add?
Of course.
Okay, so if you understand the context of in America, and especially where the stadium is located, there's the social and you got to look at some factors here. The reason why America, the basketball, you have the best basketball players in the world in America is because a lot of the courts that you see that are built, they build it in communities like this. And it helps with the after school programs by allowing, by reducing the free time that students have to go into other negative activities and to channel it into sports. So when you have an abandoned stadium like this in a community like Vine City, where it's known for the high rate in crime, and you now turn this negative into a positive, you can literally find a lot of diamonds in the rough, you know. So it's important to reference that, you know, all the top boxers, the athletes in the world, these are the types of communities that they come from, that they start from. Then when they now go out into the world, they tend to go back into those communities, you know, and invest in, you know, the YMCAs and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I happen to come from one of those communities, by the way.
Congrats for your
Thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Hello, Abhilash, also online. Perhaps that's less question than a comment, but I have the impression when I listen to your presentation that from a business perspective, from everything we say, from the evidence on how sustainable modern arenas can be, I would say there is no reason to keep it, because we all know that today stadiums must be multifunctional, need to be not only a sports arena, but they can host, as you said, concerts, etc., with facilities, bus lines, etc. But at the same time, you presented the map with the other Mercedes-Benz arena, or I don't know the exact name, but 1 kilometer far from this stadium. So I would say that's only a question about historic significance. And I would say that, is that really a sports problem? Is that really, because from a sports perspective, there is the arena, the Mercedes arena. So I would say, yeah, is that not a question or a debate that goes far beyond the sports? Because here, that's, as I understand, Atlanta has a specific has a history at the crossroads of interracial conflicts in the US, etc. As you said, Abhilash, it's a stadium built by Black people, for Black people, etc., etc. And we all know how important this issue is in the American context. So my comments and my open question is, okay, if we don't try to find arguments to create another stadium, because I think the risks that you will have a white elephant is huge. And we also know that the stadiums, if they have no club, you say, okay, the MLS clubs have also a second team, etc. But sorry, I much better know the situation in Europe than in the US. But in Paris, we know the situation with the Stade de France without a club. In Brussels, Silicia, we also. What is Silicia? Okay, that was the issue of, do we have to build a new stadium because who will host or who will occupy the stadium, etc. So I think that's really a question that's perhaps my question. That's an open question. I have no real answer, but is that really a sports problem?
Do you mind if I
you can study this issue from a sports perspective, and you did it very well, I think, with what can we, which ideas can we develop, etc., etc., etc. But in the end, the conclusion is perhaps, okay, from the sports perspective, there's kind of no future, and we have to think from another perspective to consider this place.
Do you know, I think before starting this project, I think I would agree with you. But after seeing the research, that I think we have this sort of given idea that it's like this in terms of the economic benefits not being there, because because of what happens to these stadiums. But all the research that we found are on large stadiums because everyone wants to do the research on these. And it all comes down to, we don't know enough about small stadiums. And the little research that we have found about smaller stadiums having these good impacts and not becoming white elephants is positive. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of research, but what it has told us is what we said throughout the presentation, is that you get this sense of community, this sense of pride, and you have people staying in the area and promoting the area economically and from this social point of view as well. So in terms of it turning into a white elephant, I don't think it would, because firstly, it's owned by the college. And so if the college doesn't want it to, it won't, right? So that's how sports are in the States. If they have a sports team and they increase people coming in, applicants coming into the college and start building a college team, American football or soccer, then it will get used and it will have the benefits for the college. And then if they manage to get someone like an Atlanta too, it boosts everything else that we've discussed as well. So yes, I think it is sporting. And I also would have had the same opinion of you before I saw the research on the smaller stadiums or the limited research. There needs to be more, and this could be a great example, an opportunity for that research to be even more conclusive and added to the benefits of having a small stadium in your area as opposed to a 90,000 seat stadium. That would be my response.
So to Bunmi, I think you're on mute.
Oh, okay. Abhilash, can I add to that?
Yes, I can definitely add on this. Because talking about
Abhilash, Bunmi wanted to add.
Okay, carry on, Bunmi, carry on.
Okay, so I've been living in Atlanta. I came here in 1996. Okay, yeah. I've watched Atlanta grow since the Olympics. One of the biggest issues that we have in Atlanta is there's not enough rectangular fields, to bid for smaller tournaments and competitions and so on and so forth. So this adds, and the reason why we have lost some of these tournaments and conventions is because we don't have enough rectangular fields. So we end up losing it to the other cities that are not too far away from Atlanta. So people will come to the airport and they'll have to drive an hour and a half away. So what the smaller stadium solves is they can have their home training camp and they can have their matches in the stadium, and it adds to the inventory. And it also with the surrounding hotels, it increases their occupancy, and it helps the whole ecosystem and the production value chain of the sporting industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So adding on to Bunmi's thing on the financial part, we did a lot of research on the financial part of what if someone invests on the stadium, on how do the stadium gain the revenue, and what are the economics around the events. So the major financials here is the rental revenue. Whenever we rent it out to another event, we get the rental revenue, and other is the multi-service revenue. We have also mentioned all this in the report, but not in a detailed manner. And when there is an event, there is a lot of scope for getting a lot of revenue from this events, like hotels, shopping, services, parking, catering services. All these can add up to the revenue of the stadium. And also advertising in the stadiums during the events can also add up to the revenues. And of course, as Leo said, we strongly believe that it won't stand as a white elephant, because as Bunmi said, all huge events are going into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What about the next level events? There is no place there to do the next level events. So such events are being taken out of the city. So each and every crew, the participants have to travel a lot to move to the other city to do these events, to see these events. So these are the major things which we want to touch.
Thank you for your presentation and for all the comments and and ideas and proposals we have listened. Thanks to you. Just one general comment. So basically, the owner is the Clark Atlanta University, right? And currently, the decision is that this should be abandoned, right? Or should be not renovated from the university. The decision has been taken actually to make it a housing facility.
Well, Bumni can elaborate on this, but from what we know, it's just that it's the most recent thought and what he would like to do, but we can still persuade him with the proper information to keep it.
Okay.
Well, it's not for me to be persuaded, but it's for there to be a lot.
You've been muted.
It's not for me to make the decision for the persuasion. However, it is for a live document to be presented to say, look, here are the options. You know, if you want to tear it down, you know, and turn it into apartment complex or what have you, you know, that's fine. However, here in my opinion, as a sports administrative expert, the reason why we went to the Heist Institute is because it's the #1 in the world, and the thought leadership there could look at something like this and say, hey, these are our recommendations and these are why. But at the end of the day, you know, we can only give the recommendations and show the numbers, you know, that makes sense for them to make their decision.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for this clarification. I understand. So I would say to get more to your work, which I think covered already, you know, good number of propositions. You have also numbers. You have looked at the cost as well. I would just try to have something that is more into tables as well, so we see a bit more clearly these costs. It's just a question of presentation. And then I would also look at the running costs depending on the different options you would do. You know, what's the part of the running cost if you continue to host events or training center, etc., etc. So I would elaborate a bit more on that, since at the end the decision is really based on finance actually. So I would develop it a little bit more. But I think the intangible, you know, all the benefits, the social impact, etc., are quite covered, and we would all agree with this. But at the end, if it's a question of funding and finance, I would elaborate a little bit more precisely on that. But you already did part of this, but it could be developed a bit more. And in terms of economic impact, which is something, of course, you have to look at, especially if you want some funding from state-based organization. Actually, you have to look at the real injection into the region. So if you scope to this district, then anything that would come as funding from outside is actually injection. If you look at funding from the same district or the same region, or if you took just Atlanta, and yet then you look at the funding coming from Atlanta region, it's not going to be an economic impact, because it's not adding to the current economy. It's just making the money circulating in the area, right? That will be spent anyway if it's tax money and so on. So you have to look at really the injection in the economy, and for this you need revenue coming from outside. It can be spectators to events, of course, that comes not from this district, but from outside, etc. And then you have really clear demonstration of the economic impact, which is definitely also an argument to convince.
I can comment on it,
funders,
if you like.
Of course, yes.
So we stayed in sort of a rough estimate, because it varies on so many so many variables. Depends on, for one, like if they choose the green stadium, then the costs go down dramatically. If they choose to make it four-sided, it goes up a lot. So and then depending on whether they choose or not to choose to get it on the National Register of Historic Places, do they get that 25% up to $300,000 in tax benefits? Do they get the grants? So it's too many variables to go into so much detail. Once you have more concrete decisions and opinions from the president into which direction, then you can start doing more research and saying, okay, it'll be more in this direction and adding this. So that's why we absolutely agree, needs to have that sort of economic charts and tables to emphasize it, but without so much inkling from the president in which way he wants to go. It's a next step sort of thing.
Okay. Okay, thank you for reaching the.
Thank you all very much. We will have to close this presentation here. Thank you, team, for your work.
Thank you.
For the presentation today. Thank you, Bunmi, of course, for being here today and also for all your support during these 8-9 months.
Yeah.
And your insights that really has helped the team. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the jury members.